All right, to the campaign trail now on this Monday morning. Montreal is where we're at. Here's Bloc Leader Yves-Francois Blanchet taking questions from reporters.
The number of immigrants. But we have obligations towards these people. The number of immigrants we can welcome depends on our capacity to give them proper mastery of the French language. It's inevitable for harmonious living in Quebec. Economically, there's a demand for labor, for workers in every category. We're not insensitive to other criteria. And with the climate change and the migration crisis, we have to make sure these people have the tools for economic integration, which goes through regionalization and the labor shortage. As a follow-up? You're talking about sometimes aggressive attacks on this campaign, for example, with the Liberals. Should we rethink the way we do campaigns? Would you like more security? How do you see this for later this year and in coming years? I don't need more security. 1 or 2 would be enough, but there are 8 or 9 around, and there's RCMP cordons around it. That should tell you something, but I don't want more. However, I might say, this is my opinion now. This is, I don't want to dictate, but I'd like to suggest to the Prime Minister to not make things worse. He's normally affable. I've never seen anyone as angry as him. I will not back down to these protesters. These people are not very open to dialogue. I think the attitude that's responsible to bring people together to inform people would be more of a nature to reduce this kind of thing, rather than an attitude that might encourage it. Next question? I'd like to keep going on this line. You say Mr. Trudeau should be more responsible and not make things worse, but are you saying that he's sort of chasing for it, asking for it? No. I'm not saying it's his fault and that he's stirring the pot. He must demonstrate more moderation in the way he presents his idea. So I think it's a way to appease. I don't want to lead a campaign that turns around the theme of protests against Mr. Trudeau, but he should put out his election platform, because after all, September 20th is coming, and these deplorable distractions would be behind him and behind us all. So it's a condition of citizenship to learn French, you say. How would you do that? With tests, exams? What's the level of French that would be satisfactory for an immigrant who wants to become a citizen? Is there, would commitment to learning the French be sufficient, or do they need to know French? We are in the encouragement phase, invitation, incitation, understanding. I'll give you an example of very current. There'll be the hundreds and thousands of Afghans coming are going to have extraordinary difficulty learning French. I remember an Iraqi family. It was a huge challenge. In particular of this context, we need tolerance, openness, patience, and we have to give them the tools and rely on their desire to integrate. But when they come to Rimouski or Drummondville, that they can't communicate with anyone. But the challenge of learning French for Afghans will be major, and we will have a duty to give them lots of resources to manage it, because their integration depends on that. Eventually, they'll be citizens, and yes, they'll have to take a test. It's the only way. If you can't pass the test, you have to go home. So it's necessary. So now we'll go to the virtual questions. Next question. Hello, Mr. Blanchet. I'd like to ask you that Annemie Paul, leader of the Greens, said this weekend, I believe, she spoke of Bill 21 and the hijab, saying, in her opinion, never would this Muslim veil be a symbol of submission. And to C-21 would make a woman feel ashamed of wearing it. That's wrong. What do you think of all that? I just want Quebecers hear it, that they know, that they see it. There's interventions that affect the international perception. Hasn't always been exemplary. And the other question I often wonder, is Ms. Paul going to do something other than talk about Bill C-21 in Toronto? This Green Party? Or is it the anti-21 bill? It's not the best to find candidates in Quebec. Specifically, when she says the hijab never was a symbol of submission, what do you say? We could refer her to a few experts that would give her a different vision of this. I don't consider myself to be in any way legitimate expert in this matter, but I consider that all religions have symbols of domination of men over women. In conclusion, next question from iPolitics. Can we talk about the third link? The Conservative MP in Louis Saint Laurent says the tunnel will be built in 10 or 15 years. So, no problem. Do you agree? Will electric cars fix this problem? If this is a road where electric or possibly hydrogen vehicles will be, they all have an advantage over others, speaking of climate.